Alright, hey guys, it's Polio again. This time I'm gonna do something kind of weird. And I guess this is kind of like a podcast video, except you can see me. There's really no reason for a premise like this, and especially without me having anything to put on the screen. Uh, this may not even go on YouTube, but it might. It's just something I might consider. But at school today, I just finished a book series that I've been reading. I think since like October, November last year, and I just finished the last one now. It's a 10-book series called the Demonata. You may have heard of it. It's like this magical demon world thing. And without going back and looking at any of the information of the books, I am going to the best of my ability and my memory, I'm going to try and summarize all 10 books. From book 1 to book 10, as much detail as I can about the important stuff. Alright, so let's get this started with book 1, Lord Loss. Alright, so starts with Grubbs. There's this boy named Grubsitch Grady, or something like that. He likes to be called Grubbs. And he's this boy that lives in a family that likes to play chess a lot, and he doesn't like his sister. He gets bored all the time because they only play chess. And then he decides to scare his sister, like by putting a dead rat in there. She's like, ah! And then the parents are like, not that, well, really, at this time? And he's like confused. And so he gets sent to his aunt's house, but then they're like, Gret's like, I'm scared. And the dad's like, oh, I'm scared too. And Gret's confused. So when at his aunt's house, he's just gonna go take a nap, but he actually sneaks out and he goes back to his house. And he goes back, and there's no one there. Of course, because he was told they're going to be on vacation. There's Ellie. And so he goes to look in the bedroom, and then he opens the bedroom door, and he sees his parents and Gret are killed. Like, there's a lot of blood everywhere. And then there's this like little demon baby thing named Artery. I was like, oh, I'm going to kill you now. And then Grubbs like, oh no, and he runs away, and he jumps through the dog door, and he's like, and he screams, but then he's like, how did I do that? I should not have been able to jump through that door. He's interrogated by the police. The police are like, you're like, what? Who killed them? And he's like, it was demons. Demons killed my parents. And he's like, you're crazy. We were taking you to a mental hospital. And so he's taken to the mental hospital for a lot of months, and then like some stuff happens, like some relatives come over, but then he's like, oh, demons killed my parents, and like it was really gruesome and all that. And then he gets taken back, and then one day this guy called Dervish, I think it's his uncle, he shows up and he's like, hey Grubbs, you I'm gonna get you out of there, but you gotta pretend that you figure out someone that killed him. You gotta pretend it's a person and not a supernatural force. I know about the demons, but you gotta pretend. He's like, okay, and he does, and he gets let out. And Dervish comes and picks him up, takes him to his big mansion, like big place, like all these rooms, and he like talks to him a little bit, and he's like, well, I guess you're living here now, but you gotta take care of yourself. And he's like, okay. And then this kid named Billy comes over, Billy Spleen. He's like, oh, hi, I am Dervish's, forgot what he thought he was. It's like, oh, I'm Dervish's like cousin or nephew. I'm Dervish's nephew. And then he's like, oh, cool, well, we're friends. And he shows him this hallway with a bunch of pictures in it, and it's like, my family and Gret are there. And he's like, yeah, this is the hallway where all the people die, like all the people that die in the family show up. And then Dervish tells Grubbs later about this girl named Mira that he's with, and then he like rides a motorcycle and stuff. And so like he goes out to the bar a lot, but then Grubbs is like, I don't know, I feel a bit suspicious. So he goes down into the basement and he finds this like wine rack thing with all these bottles, and he turns one, and then there's like a secret room with a bunch of magic books and stuff. And then he's like, and then there's this book with Lord Lost on it, and then it's like, "Whoa, come to me, Grubs," and he's like, "Oh no," and he runs away. And then later he tells Billy like, "Hey, Dervish has been out a lot, and I've seen this stuff. I think Dervish might be a werewolf." And Billy's like, "Really? Okay, let's go and check next time he goes out." And they go and check it out the next time he goes out, and they're looking at him, but then Billy's like, "Oh no, I feel sick," and he passes out. And then Grubbs tries to take him back, but then Mira and Dervish up, and they're like, "Oh no, watch out!" And he gets up, and it's surprise, surprise, Billy was the werewolf all along. And so he attacks them all, and Mira gets like attacked. He's like, "Oh," and then they Dervish and Grubbs take him back, put him in the cage in the basement, and then so what they have to do in what people do whenever one of their like children or family is a werewolf, they do a ritual and go against the demon master Lord Lost in a chess game. He likes human misery, but he also likes chess. And if they beat him in chess, they'll get rid of the lycanthropy. That's the werewolf thing. And if not, they'll die. Like they'll all die. And then you have the other person. You have to go in with a partner, and the other person has to fight like the demon minions or whatever they're called. Lessers, I don't know what they're called. So then Grubbs and Dervish do that, and it starts with Dervish playing chess and Grubbs fighting, but then Grubbs almost dies, and Dervish is like, "Stop, stop, stop. I'm not gonna do it." And then Grubbs like, "Well, okay, I'll play chess then." And so he does that, and Lord Lost is like kind of beating him. Like there's already some lost games, and Grubbs like, "Oh no, what do I do?" He gets all scared, but then he's like, "Wait a minute, maybe he wants the spare, so I'd be happy." And he like laughs, and it's like, "Ah ha ha ha," when he loses a piece. He like laughs and like flicks stuff around. He doesn't really think about what he does, and that makes him win. So then he wins the other, because there's like 5 chess games you have to do, 5 boards, and you can make a move on any board you want. And so Grubbs won 3 of the 5 games, and Lord Lost's like, "You ruined chess for me. All right, now we're going into my realm, and I will fight you, Dervish." And so they go in there, and Dervish's like, "Well, I won't have my soul when you get back, so you gotta take care of me." And Grubbs like, "Okay." And so he does, and like a year passes, and then another important part I forgot is like there's a thing called the lambs, where if you're feel like you're gonna turn into a werewolf, you can call them, and they'll come and kill you, so you don't turn into a werewolf. And then Grubbs one day wakes up, he's got like dirt in his fingernails, he's got like blood around his mouth. And then he goes downstairs and he's like gonna call the lambs, and then Dervish is like, he's like, "Grubbs," and he's like, he turns around and it's like he's got a paint bucket and some dirt. He's like, "Oh, the look on your face." And that's the end of book 1. That took 8 minutes to summarize book 1. There are 9 more books to go. All right, I won't waste time. Book number 2. What happened after I pause the video because I gotta let Ruby in. Okay, now we're gonna do book 2. I don't know the title of most of the books from now on, so I'm just not gonna say them. Oh well, actually I could. Okay, number 2 I don't know the name of. So now this book isn't about Grubbs. This is about a kid named Colonel Cornelius Fleck, or Colonel. He says, "Oh, I've always been weird, because I've always been called the weird kid because I see these patches of light all around me and I don't know what it means. And like sometimes I like move them around for fun, but everyone thinks I'm a weird kid." And then one day he's sitting at home with his... Hi, Ellie. And he's sitting at home, like on his bed, like messing around with the lights, and a couple of them slot together. So then he like puts them all together, and then it opens this like window, and then like a demon thing walks through, but then it goes back. And so Colonel walks in, and then suddenly they're like, he's like gone, like he just doesn't know, he's like out of it. And then he wakes up, apparently according to his parents, a week later, and he's like laying down holding a baby. The baby's name is Art. A baby's gonna be important later. Or the baby's. Oh yeah, this book's title is Demon Thief. Somehow I can remember the first 8. The first 8. But I can't remember 9 or 10. So then, they decide to move to like a bigger city, or not a big city. They move to like a little town where they're all happy because they feel like where they're at is a bad luck charm. They almost lost their kid and stuff. So then, like, Colonel meets these friends. He goes to like school and stuff. One day he's out at the beach, and then there's like evil witch lady that no one really likes. It's like, she comes up to him. He's like, "Oh, you must find the demon thief," and then blah blah blah, and then she walks away. And then Colonel's like, "What the heck?" I think he like throws up or something. He's like, he doesn't really tell anyone about it. Then there's like another thing related to school, and then the witch shows up, and she's like holding this light stuff. He's like, "Oh, you can see them too." And then she's like, "Who's the demon thief? I'm going to die." And then she eats something and she explodes. And there's a window and demons show up, and then they like kill a bunch of people. And girl's like, all like, "Oh no!" And one of the baby like bites Colonel's hand and walks up to one of the demons. The demon in question is named Cadaver. Walks away, and then there are these people that like come out of the window to, like fight the demons, and they're like, some should we do something with the boy?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't care." And then they leave, and then Colonel's like, "I guess I'd better go in to save Art." And then he walks in, and so he's in this like strange world, and there's like a voice in his head that's like, "Oh, you're gonna die and stuff. You're all alone now." And he's like, "Shut up!" And he's like, he keeps walking, and he finds these people, and like, one of them is like, "Oh, well, what do we do with this kid? Do we like go send him back?" And then one of them is called. So he just says, "No, I have to test him first." And then he gets launched in like this tree thing, and then he breaks out with like a bunch of fire, and it's like, "Wow, I knew it. He's magic." Yeah, if you didn't know, Grubbs was magic as well, and so was Colonel. So the people in this group are Baranabas, the old one that's like a super mage, like 1,000 years old. There's Shark, or well, not Shark yet, but we're gonna get the Shark. There's Charmelia. There's I think Raz, and there's someone named Nadia. They're all gonna be important later, except for Raz, I think, because he dies. And then, like, I think they're like, "Oh no, we're being attacked and something," and then someone's got to open a window, and then Colonel's like, "Okay, I'll do it." And he like connects these things together. And he's like, "Wow, how did you do that? You did it so fast." It's because I can see the lights. Wow, really? No one else could see the lights. And then I think they send him back with Nadia, and then they're back in the city. And then Nadia's all like, "Oh wow, here's like the real world and stuff. Hey, Colonel, dude, come with me, and we can like explore the world and stuff." And Colonel's like, "No, I have to save Art and find Baranabas." And then Nadia's like, "Screw you!" And then she leaves. And then Colonel's like, "Oh, I'm so lonely." And he walks around a bit. He goes into this bar place. He sneaks in with someone, and then he meets these two people, Shark and Dervish. Dervish, yes, that's the same Dervish from the first book. And so they're like, "Oh, well, look at this kid and stuff. Like, I'm Shark, I'm Dervish. Oh, you're fighting demons and stuff." And then, like, someone opens a window to the demon place in there, and a demon comes out, and everyone's like, "Oh, no!" And then they, like, trap him or something, and they're like, "Nice job." So then Colonel's all like, "Can you help me? I'm trying to get back to Baranabas. And Baranabas' goal is trying to find the pieces of something called the Kagash, which is like this big weapon that can destroy universes, and he's trying to get all the pieces of it, but he doesn't really know how many pieces there are or what it is. So he's just trying to figure it out. And then they're like, "Okay, we'll help you." And then they go into the demon world and stuff. Barnabas makes Colonel get Nadia back, and she's like, "How could you? Oh, I'm so angry. I'm going to kill you." And then fast forward some more, a bunch of unimportant events. They go to Lord Loss's realm, like a spider webby place, and Lord Loss is like, "Oh, you want your demon? You want your baby back, Colonel Art? Well, if you can beat me, if you can go in here and find out who the demon thief is, then I'll let you have them. But first, I have to kill one of your group." And Barnabas is like, "Okay." And then Nadia's like, blah, 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 blah. And then he kills Nadia. She's like, "Ah, no." And everyone's like, "Oh, no." And then they go in the chess world. And then, Colonel, he like wakes up in this black area, which is like, he realizes it's the chessboard. He gets this like marble out of his pocket, and he thinks of Art, and the marble like floats and it glows, and like it takes him, like gives him some light so that he can get out of the that area. And it goes into like a light area with a bunch of pillars and stuff. And then Colonel gets like thrown in the lobby. He's like, "Ah, God, it hurts." And then there's this person, when he wakes up, it's like, "You gotta heal yourself." And he's like, "Okay." And so he gets up and he realizes it's Nadia. Nadia never died. And it's like, "Yeah, I made a deal with Lord Loss. I have to work for him now. But so I'll let you go now. But if you see me again, we're enemies." And Colonel's kind of sad. He's like, "Oh no, I have to fight him now." But it's like, okay. I fast forward some more. They meet Dervish. They meet Shark. I take a drink of my Coke because my throat. Okay. And then they get to a place where they see Lord Loss and Cadaver, and then he's like, "You have 3 chances to guess the demon thief." And Colonel's like, "Oh, this guy, he's the demon thief." And he's like, "That's not right. You get 2 more chances." And then he's like, You're the demon thief." He's like, "That's smart, but it's not right either. Now you only have 1 more chance." And so he thinks a bit, and he sees this little demon baby thing, and he sees the same eyes that Art had. He's like, "Oh my goodness, I stole a demon baby. I'm the demon thief." Turns out, Art was actually Artery the whole time. My dad's about to come back home, so I'm gonna have to pause this in a second. And then they like go back, and then Colonel goes back home. They all get sent back to the human world. Colonel gets back home. His parents thought he was dead because like 6 months or 6 years have passed. And then they're like, there's like a picture of him like torn off, like crossed out. He's like, "Oh man, my parents don't care for me anymore. They've moved on." And so he goes back to help Barnabas with find the Kagash. End of book 2. Yeah, get ready for a random cutoff because my dad got home and I'll have to pause it. So book 3 is called Slaughter. So Dervish has been sad lately for some reason. He's been having these nightmares ever since he fought Lord Loss. He's like, "Ah!" And he like swings around and stuff. And Grubbs has to like control him. And then Grubbs is at school, and he's friends with this kid named Locke, who won't be important until like book 5, I think. Yeah. And then Billy's getting bullied all the time. He's like, "Here, shake my hand, man." And then Billy tries to take it. He's like, "Sucker." So that happens, and Grubbs falls for this girl named, I mean, I don't really know. She isn't mentioned for the last few books, so I can't really remember her name. Oh well. Grubbs is in love with this girl. I think it's Locke's like sister or something. And so one day, there's this girl named Diva, I think. And then she's like, "Oh wow, I'm a superstar, popular movie creator. I want you guys, since you've seen real demons, I want you guys to be in my demon movie." And so they're like, "Okay, that's cool. You're popular. We'll go." So Dervis, Grubbs, and Billy all go. And they're like, "Oh man, we still have to do school." And then there's this girl. I know there's like some rude people there. I only remember one named Bo Cooneyart, who's like, "Oh, I'm so much better than you." And then Grubbs is like, "Oh, I hate you. I want to punch you in the face." And so one of the kids has a scene where he gets dragged into a sewer, and it's like, he can't remember his lines, but then Grubbs is like, hey man, it's like we're not really going off a script. You don't, no one's gonna know if you get it wrong. Just like you gotta believe in yourself. You gotta say what you're gonna say. And then he's like, okay, I'll do my part. So he goes up there and he gets attacked by a demon. Real fear. He gets dragged down. Everyone's scared until Diva is like, ah ha ha, that was so good. Everyone's like, wow, that's so cool. But then Grubbs can't find the kid anymore after the thing. So he calls up his mother and he's like, oh, well, we just left because we didn't want to do it anymore or something. But then Grubbs is like confused because he remembered that Diva said that no one could leave until the movie was done. They all agreed to that. But then it happens again with a few more killings. And so Grubbs and Billy like talk to this girl there named Junie Swan about it, and they're like, oh, like something's going on here. And then they find this like area because like there's two twins, but one of the twins are missing. But then the other one's like, no, they never leave without telling me first, and we're always like together and stuff. So they go in this like warehouse area, and they find like a bunch of blood and guts and like body pieces. And then suddenly these demons come up and attack him, and then that voice from earlier is like, you get down, and he's like, whoa, and then he like tells him how to do stuff. He makes his feet into knives and kills him. And then they get this like stone thing. It's called a lodestone. It's like, all right, well, cool. So then I tell Dervis about it, like, there's something up here. We need to get out and like get someone to get in here. But then they try driving out, but then like suddenly the air feels heavy and they all like fall asleep. And so they're like, and then they wake up and it's like there's a coin, like lamb coin thing here, and they're like, oh no, what, we gotta go to the lambs. And then they go there, and there's like this airport, and they meet Shark and Charmelia, and it's like, well, nice to meet you guys. And then they go save Billy, but then Grubbs notices that like some things were off during it. Like, why wasn't he like covered in that demon blood he fought earlier? Like, why are these random people here? How did this even happen? And then he does this like spell, like, and then he wakes up and he gets everyone else up, and he realizes, whoa, that thing was fake the whole time. That was like an alternate world. And they realize there's like some magical barrier that's keeping them all there, so nobody can get out. So then they do the final scene where Lord Lost comes up. He's like a tall, slender gray man. He's got like snakes in his heart. Where his heart should be, there's like a hole, and there's a bunch of snakes in there. And then the cameraman gets up close because the diva tells him to, and he dies. And Diva's like, "What the heck? You said we were gonna do this," and he's like, "I didn't say I'd keep any of your people safe." And then he like starts killing a bunch of people with his demons. And then fast forward a bit. Bo is like heroic and stuff, like, oh, I have to go save my father and stuff. She doesn't. And so Grubbs fights Lord Lost, gets the better of him, and it's like, yeah, screw you, I'm so much better than you. And then there's this guy that like helped set it up, and then Junie just kills him. And then that's it for that. For the important stuff of book 3. That was a lot faster, wasn't it? Okay, book 4, simply named Beck. It's about a girl named Beck. The thing about this one is that it takes place a really long time before Grubbs or Colonel stories. So there's this girl named Beck who was born in the forest, and her mother like died after she was born. And then she like finds out that she's like magic and stuff. We practiced in that because they had to fight demons a lot as well. And then this kid named, well, they don't know his name yet. He like comes up and he's like, run fast, run fast. He says random stuff. He doesn't really know how to speak. And they're like, well, I'll just name him Run Fast. The reason that he says run fast a lot because he can run really fast. And it's proven a little bit later where they're in this barrier thing and they're surrounded by demons. And then the kid's like, run fast. And he like runs around and he like up to the demons, and he dodges all the demons because he's so fast. Like, run fast, and he's like jumping around. And then there's other characters' names. I can't remember any of them from that book because like they only show up in that book and then they're gone. Except for one. There's a guy named Druss that's like kind of mean. and like teaches Beck some more magic spells. And then they meet up with Lord Lost, and because he was still a thing back then, he's like, oh, I'm gonna get you and something. And then Beck is like, and then she like absorbs Lord Lost's energy and like magic, and then she can do a lot more magic stuff. And then Lord Lost's like, oh, I'll curse you. And then they're all like, oh man, we need to get to this big demon tunnel and like get rid of it, and trust this guy, who also tells them that the Run Fast kid is named Bran. Tells them, Beck, one of us has to die in order to get this thing to go away, this big portal. And Beck's like, okay. And so they all go have some fights and stuff. They make it to the cave. There's this big cave with a bunch of tunnels. After they go to these big statues that are called old creatures and ask them what they're supposed to do. So then they go down these chambers of cave, like down and down, down. And there's this like stone thing. And then Beck pins just up and slits his throat. And he's like, and then all the blood goes on the stone. And it's like, and then, like, Ellie, why are you? And then all the demons get sucked back up. But then the tunnel starts collapsing. And it's just Beck and Bran left. And then they're running back up. But then Beck gets bitten by Artery. And then she's like, oh no, I'm not going to make it. Bran, run fast. And he's like, ooh, run fast. And he runs through the hole. And then he makes it. But he's all sad. And then Beck's like, oh man, I guess I'm dead. And Lord Lost shows up. He's like, yeah, you're dead. And then he kills her. And book 4. Book 5 is called, I don't know what book 5 is called. I don't think I know what book 5 is called. But I know the basic premise of it. Book 5, nothing really too important happens for the first half of it. Or, well, I guess, but it's kind of like a filler one to get the plot going, but there's no big plot points in this one. Or not too many. So, Grubbs has a party at the house. He accidentally shows off his magic. But he's like, oh, it wasn't me. So then, the main thing that happens, the main two things, is that, Grubbs, Billy, and Locke open up this cave that they found. And Locke, dies in it. And Grubbs starts finding out that he might be turning into a werewolf. He also has a counselor to get rid of the trauma of slaughter. Guess who that is? It's Junie Swan. After, even though she said she was going to be gone, she's there. And now she's living with Nervous, and Nervous is like, ooh, I love you. And then they like, and then Junie's like, ooh, I love you too. And then they get along really well, and Grubbs like, oh, I don't really know. And so, yeah, Locke dies in that cave that they're climbing, and Billy's like, oh no, I did that. And then Grubbs is like, oh, that's sad. I don't care. I'm turning into a werewolf. And then Grubbs also sees this like face in the cave. He's like angry at him. He's like, I don't know what you're saying. And then he gets back there later, and he's like, what are you saying? And he's like, oh, I'm turning into a werewolf. And he's like, oh. And then he loses his consciousness. And then he wakes up, but then he's like at Billy's house, and his grandparents are dead. He's like, oh my god, I did this, I killed him. She's like, it's okay, we can like run away and stuff. And then they do, and they like get on a plane, but then the plane like is like, oh no, and then there's the demons show up and then like kill people, and that's where it ends off. Yeah, it's kind of a cliffhanger one. Also, yeah, Grubbs having Wolfen in him because it was part of the Grady family. He's going to be important in, like, book 8. It's going to be important from now on, but especially in book 8. So, book 6 is called Blood Beast. Back on the plane, and it turns out Junie is evil and is working for Lord Lost. And then he's like, Grubbs like, oh no, I'm going to die. And he's like, I'm going to save her this. That's what Lord Lost says. And then suddenly, this, like, guy that's it looks like a bum that's been following Grubs around a lot. It's like, oh, I'll save you, and then he like throws him out, and he's like, ah! It's like, come on, you have to fly, and it's like, I can't fly. He's like, yes, you can. He's like, okay, and he starts flying, and they fly this like cave place, and they walk in, and there's this kid. Guess who the kid is? The kid is named Colonel. The guy following Grubs around is Barnabas. They tell him what they've been doing, going through Demon Universe trying to find this. And so Grubs is like, oh, okay, and then Colonel doesn't really like him. He's like, well, and then like they fight a demon. And he's like, oh no. He's like, Colonel's like, you're a coward. And then Grubs like, I have to leave this place. And then they finally come back, and like Grubs tells him there's been a knock at the door and a lot, and they open it. It's like Charmelia, and there's like this old Indian woman, and then she's like, hey, you guys had to come over here to this like cave place. There's been like a big demon tunnel trying to open up. It kind of sucks. And then they're like, well, okay. So then they go with Shark and the remaining living disciples, that's what they're called, to the cave. They have a big fight there, and suddenly that girl face shows up. He's like, and then Grubs is like, what do you mean? And then the magic inside Grubs is like, oh, I want to talk to her. And then he's like, and she's like, and then they're like, whoa. Also, during this, Colonel gets stabbed by a scorpion named Spine, and he went blind because his eyes got like eaten out. And then the world goes like, whoa, and then it all turns white. And then Grubs and Colonel are like flying, like, what's happening? And then they go through some like tunnel stuff, and they get up, and then they are like a little bit out of the cave, and then Barnabas is like, whoa, we've just traveled through time, and but they're all naked, and they're like, oh no, we make leaf clothes. And so they walk in. By the way, before this, Colonel finds out he didn't really kill Billy's grandparents. He was trapped, and Junie was like trying to start a ritual with him, but then she's like, this isn't working, I thought I needed blood. And then he's like, you gotta do Billy. And then she's like, oh, okay. And they go over there, and like he tries to kill Billy, but then Grubs attacks him as a werewolf, so that she can't do it. And so she doesn't, and Billy's grandparents die, because that was apparently good enough. So they find Dervish and Billy tied up in there, and the portal's about to open. And so Junie's like, I'm so evil, but then Dervish ends up like, I'm gonna kill you, and she's like, no, you love me. He's like, no, I hate you. And then she gets stabbed and she dies, and Lord Love's like, how could you? But then nothing happens, and the portal's still opening, and then Billy is like, hey, Grubs. And then he's like, what? And then Grubs is like, Billy's like, I'm the whatever the word is, because I killed Lockinier because he was falling, and I grabbed his hand as a joke, and he was like, I swatted away. I'm like, sucker. But then he fell and he died, so it was me who started the portal. You have to kill me. And then Grub's like, oh man, why is this happening? I'm so sad. And then he's like, he hugs him one more time, and then he kills him because he has to die. And then the portal shuts, and Lord Love's like, no. And then Grub's like, I'll kill you, and he uses his magic, but then he goes into the floor to like the girl face, and it's like, oh. And then Billy's body like wakes up and stuff, and Lord's like, what? But then it's like, ha, psych, I'm actually Beck from thousands of years ago, because my soul has been trapped in this cave. This is the cave I stopped that one tunnel from opening in. And everyone's like, what? And Barnabas like, oh my god, it's Beck. Because Barnabas, Bran, the kid from like all those years ago, actually was Barnabas, but he didn't know his name yet. And that's really what happens in that one. Beck is in this modern world. Billy's dead. Dervish is really sad. And Grubs has to go with Barnabas and Colonel, because what they found out is the Kagash was actually them. Grubs, Colonel, and Beck were all the three parts of the Kagash. And when they form, they can like do a bunch of stuff. So then, okay. Book 7. I don't know the name of book 7. So, now we're in the position of Beck. See my face do stupid things. Okay, now we're taken from the perspective of Beck, and since Beck has all of Billy's memories, Dervish makes her like sitting there and like, tell me all about what Billy liked, like what was his favorite food and stuff, and what did he like at school. She's like, okay, but it's like he's not really talking to me, man. I don't like this. And then Mira's like, oh, okay, just like show him your worth, show him you're actually a person, and then like hug. But then Beck has this new ability where she absorbs everyone's memories that she touches, and it's like, oh no, I feel so sad. I'm like a sponge. And then she tells Dervish, he's like, okay, so can we be friends? She's like, yeah, whatever. So then suddenly werewolves attack, like surround the house and attack. So they all hide in the basement, like in this room, and they're like, well, we're okay, I guess we'll just call in some disciples. But then like, uh-oh, now Dervish is having a heart attack. He might be dead. Let's take him to the hospital. And so they go to the hospital with Shark and Sharmila again. And then they go to the hospital, but then demons attack the hospital. Alright, there's that pause that I was talking about. I'm also gonna, I probably should have done it earlier. I'm gonna avoid it. I didn't know how long it's gonna take. I'm gonna avoid it, having to make a disclaimer earlier in the video. Just say now, I think it might have already happened, but either it's already happened or in a few minutes there was or there will be like a cut in the video. That's not like a bug in the video. That's intentional because UCut doesn't fully like sync up the audio. That's what video editor I use between two videos, and my stupid camera app can't record a video straight longer than 30 minutes without splitting it up. Alright, back to book 7. So then they're fighting. I think they're in the infirmary, or where the babies are at. And then Grubbs and Barnabas and them come back from the demon world, and they're like, wow, we're gonna fight you guys. And then they're all like talking. And then they're like, well, I have to go back to the demon world. Beck, you're coming with me, and Colonel too, but Grubbs, you can stay, I guess. Because Grubbs want to stay with Dervish, but like they're like, Dervish has to go to the demon world, and so does Sharmila, because Sharmila lost her legs, and Dervish will die without the magic that like puts his heart like working and stuff. So then they all do that. That car is just driving backwards the whole way for no reason. What on earth was that? And then so they go to the demon world, and their Dervish is like, can we be friends again, Beck? And Beck's like, yeah. And they're like, yahoo. And then they go to this boat ship place, because Colonel's like, we should target Junie first because we can't target anyone else. So then they do that. They go to the ship place where Junie was. They meet this guy named Carilli. He's yep, look at that. Maximum file size reached. Video saved. Recording in a different video. Uh-oh. So they meet this guy named Carilli. He's kind of a coward, but he can be heroic when he needs to. He'll do that in book 8. He'll do that in book 9. Hi, Ellie. Ellie walks up here. She just she is just not like waiting out. She just marched up here. Which a goofball. We're all goofballs. Ellie's a big one. Alright, so then they are like, well, demons are still on the ship and stuff, and a portal's being opened on the bottom and stuff. There's demons down there, so they go down there. See Junie and Cadaver. Where the lost possesses Cadaver is like, oh, you're gonna die now. There's this new force named the Shadow that's like the physical form of death. And it like, Cadaver explodes, blood goes on the lodestone, the Shadow shows up and absorbs the power. But then it's like, there's a piece of the Kagash here, so he goes up and he tries to kill Beck. but he fails. And then they're fighting the shadow, and Barnabas is like, oh, well, we can't stop this guy, so I guess I'll have to do what I gotta. And then he turns into like a demon form, because he was a demon the whole time, and he fights. He fights. Well, I mean, he fights. He fights the shadow, but he dies. So everyone else runs up the stairs, and they see Colonel up there, and they try to warn him, because Barnabas is like, oh, go get Colonel, he'll know what to do. So they do that, but then there's like a white flash of light, and then he's gone. And everyone's like, what the heck? You just leave us? So then they're stuck on there with fighting these zombies that showed up, and they're like, there's another magical barrier here, we can't get out. And Charmeleon's like, well, I'm gonna die, so I guess I'll do it, and I'll open it for you guys. And Charmeleon dies, and they all get on the boat, because Corelli still had magic left to get the boat down, and they're all on the boat. End of book 7. Book 8, Wolf Island. The same events go from the hospital to the window. Go as earlier, the same as earlier, except now in Grubb's perspective. He went into the demon world. He missed Dervish and all that, and then he's back. Talks to Dervish for a bit. He's sad that he's still gone, but he stays in the human world to look at stuff about the lambs. So he does that, and then he finds he's at a hotel place he's with Shark. I don't remember who else, but he's with someone else, I think. Oh yeah, he's with Mira, I think. And so they find this guy named Timus and a few other guys. Timus is just like, he doesn't know how to handle like normal weapons, but he's a really good hacker. If you give him some complicated, he's like, and he like knows how to figure it out. And so they go to this the lamb factory place, and there's this new guy named Antoine, and he's like, let me show you guys around. And so he does, and he goes to this like lab place, and he's like, oh, Grubb's like, oh no, they're like being tortured and killed and stuff. This is not right. Oh, they're being like tortured and breeded and experimented on. This is not right. I'm gonna kill you. Shark's like, no, don't kill him. So then Antoine's like, I want to keep my place in this company. We gotta go. And then Tim is like, okay. 5 days later, he's like, okay, I found this place with the lambs that were prey at him, which is like the main lambs person that's been messing with Grubb since he's been suspected and then confirmed to be a werewolf. And then like, on the island where they're at right now, testing with a bunch of werewolves. So they all go there, and then they go to this one like area in like the lab where Grubb's fighting Judy, and Antoine's like, haha, I tricked you guys, you're all here, blah blah blah. Window opens, they all run away. They get trapped in they run to a cave. They get trapped in the cave by wolves, and then the Kakash, which is that voice that was in Grubbs' head. He's like, you have to turn into a werewolf. And I'm like, he's like, what? He's like, trust me, you have to turn into a werewolf. And he's like, okay. And he's like, he turns into a werewolf, and he's like, I lead you now, because he kills all the werewolf leaders. Like, you are mine. And they're like, okay. And like, spare these guys. And Shark is like really injured and stuff. And the other one's like Mira and Mira and Prey. They go out, and now Grubbs is no longer a human, but he is like a mix of kind of human, a wolf sort of, and a magic thing. He's like a hybrid, as he says it. They kill Antoine after Antoine shows them where Dervish and all of them are. They were supposed to be trapped and killed, except for Beck, but they weren't. And then they find him, and Dervish is like, oh man, dude, like, fighting's cool, but my heart's gonna give in. I'm gonna die. And he's like, we can get you to Demon World. I was like, nah, it's not worth it. So then they fight some more, and end of book 8. Book 9. We're almost done. I don't know the names of book 9 or book 10, so I'm not even gonna try. Book 9. Same things from earlier, but in Colonel's perspective. Fast forward to when the shadow appears. Colonel's on the top of the ship, watching to make sure nothing happens to the window. Colonel, after being blinded, made himself new eyes, but he can see more patches of light than before he can't control, and are telling him to come all the time. He doesn't know what that means yet, but he swears they're whispering to him. Then all the patches of light that he couldn't control all form together, and there's this big ball of light that shows up like, you must come with us to save the world and stuff. And Colonel's like, I can't leave my friends. And the zombies show up, and then ball disappears, and then he's in the zombie like, you go in there, and the zombie explodes, and Colonel gets sent into this portal vortex thing, and he's like in space like, where am I? And then he gets trapped by the ball. He's inside the ball right now. He's like, I'm trying to fight out, but he can't. He's like thinking, what the heck is going on here? And then he's like, something must be up here. Like, this can't be. And then the ball's like, you're right, I can read your mind. And Krill's like, oh no, I have to talk to you through my mind. And then they get up in this place, and then a slug thing like attacks Colonel, and then this like toddler thing shows up and kills him, and is like, no way, it's Artery. And he's like, no, I'm Art. And then they like have a conversation, and they're like, you gotta go, I have to take you to this place, and then you make a decision. And it's like, I want to go back home. It's like, no, screw you. And he's like, I hate being manipulated. So they go through a bunch of places, blah 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 blah, nothing really happens besides that. Then they get to this place called the Crux. That's where the Big Bang happened. That's where all the old creatures live. So he's taken in, and the Art, the ball thing, he was a toddler because they can, like, not really shapeshift, but they can be whatever appearance is best for talking to someone, like Art for Colonel. And then he's like, this is where the Big Bang happened. Like, this is a bunch of universe. The universe was originally 64 pieces, white and black. White was for there's the old creatures lived in some of it, and the demons lived in the other. It was harmony. And now the Shadow is trying to kill all the humans and destroy the universe, so it was back to what it originally was, because death doesn't like being a conscious force. It also turns out that the reason death is a conscious force is that death is named the Shadow, by the way, is that when Beck died, her soul stayed in the cave, and that made Death go like, what? And then he turns into a physical being, and he doesn't like it, so he wants to reset the universe so he can go back to being like unconscious and stuff. So then they're like, wow, wait, hold on, the tiles are moving, and then he like runs away, but then a demon attacks him, and then the ball's like dead, but it pushes Colonel back to the portal, and then he's in the portal, and then Art is dead, and then there's this other guy, this like guy named Raz, the guy, the disciple that died earlier back in book 2. He's like, I'm not Raz, I just look like him. And then it's like, we have to show you something, and they go into space and stuff, and there's this like thing, there's like this ship with a bunch of stuff on it, and like a tunnel. It's like, we want you to live forever. You can you be on the Ark, and you can make a tunnel between universes, because there are like 3 pieces of the Kagash. The trigger, the eyes, and the memory. You are the eyes, so you can see tunnels between universes. You can keep these few million alive forever. And then Colonel's like, yeah, seems cool, but like, I have a chance still. If I don't have a chance, I'll come back. And he's like, okay, take this piece of the lone stone to get over there. Blah, blah, blah. Wee! And he comes back, and he's like, well, we're kind of screwed. What else happens? Oh, yeah. So they try to, they go through a couple portals trying to get somewhere, and then they're like, they get attacked by this big, like, wave thing, and they get surrounded, and they're like, oh no, we'd have nothing to do. So they go into Lord Loss's realm by, like, going through the window that was made, and then there's a bunch of demons there, and they're like, oh, we're safe, uh-oh, and they have this big fight, and they're like, wah! And then Mira dies, and it's like, oh no. And so there's only a few people, and then Beck gets stuck in the Beck gets stuck with Lord Loss. He's like, oh, I'm keeping you. And Colonel's like, we had to stop him, and Beck's like, just go. And then they're like, ah. And then Colonel after that is like, oh man, well, that happened, and I don't think we have much more of a chance, so I'm gonna go to the Ark. I hope you come with me. And Grub's like, oh no, screw that, and he blinds him. He's like, you're staying with me. And then, all right, next part, the final book. I think I've kind of been going a bit too fast on some of this, but I don't know. If I don't hurry this up, this will go for an hour. It's almost been an hour. Book 10, the final book in the series. This one might take a little more explaining, maybe as long as book 1 and 2, or maybe a little longer. So, it starts with Colonel's in the hospital because he's blind with Carilli. They're friends now. But Colonel's like, I hate you, Grubs. I want to kill you. And Grubs like, okay. And it's like, I feel guilty. And then somehow I already forgot what happened in the beginning. Well, here's what they did. They said we're gonna try and destroy all the lodestones, but then Grubs keeps having this dream where it's like Beck and Lord Lost, and it's like, what? She's working for him now? And they made this deal, but he doesn't know what it is. And so they try to destroy all the lodestones so that Beck and Lord Lost can't get their hands on it. And they're at the old house. And it's like, wow, man, so many memories. It's probably the last time I'm ever gonna see this place. Oh, so sad, so sad. And then they all go back in the cave because they sealed it off, but they go back in. They destroy that lodestone, and then Shark meets up with them, Shark and Timus. And then they're all like, oh, I gotta blow this up. They're all like, we gotta go and save Beck in the demon world. So then they do that, and they go in there, but they find this like place where everyone's being tortured in Lord Lost's palace, and then Bo Cooneyard is there, and then they save her, and she's like, wow, really, is that really you, Grubs? He's like, yeah, okay, now get out. And she's like, okay, and she leaves. And then they go up to the top, and they find Beck playing chess with Lord Lost, and Beck's like, oh, I'm evil now. The world's gonna end, so why not be on their side so I don't die? And then she's like, whoa, and then the shadow comes out of it like a chess board thing, and then it possesses her, and now she's like Beck and a shadow, and it's like, so come to me, Grubs. Like, Grubs like, no, screw you, and then he leaves with Colonel. And then they're like, well, I have new eyes now, so I'm going to leave. And they're like, wait, we can convince the old creatures to help us in our world. And Colonel's like, no, they're gonna say no because they don't care about our universe. And they're like, well, we can try. So they try. Grubs and Colonel go to the old creature's place, and Raz's like, no, screw that. And he like freezes Grubs, and then they go to leave, but then Beck comes out of nowhere into the old creature world, and Beck's like, well, I'm the memory, so after I absorbed your memories, I know exactly where you were, and I know where the Ark is. So I'm gonna kill your light ball friend here, and which she does, and then, but they fight, but then the shadow inside of Beck gets weakened, and Beck's like, you guys have to get out of here, and Beck's like, and Grub's like, come, well, we can join, and like, what are you doing? And they're like, get out, you idiot, and they leave. And now Colonel knows that he can't go to the Ark, so he's like, oh, I'm crazy now, we're gonna have an ultimate battle. And so they decide that they're gonna wait for a big tunnel where a lot of demon masters can come in to open up. They're gonna go there, and they're gonna make their fight. They're just really fighting until they die. That's it. That's their only plan. A portal gets opened up. They go. Grubs makes his final speech. Let's kill some demons. And they go in. And North's like, how unexpected. And then they like fight. And then Beck's like, come to me. And then Grubs like gets an idea to seal off the big window. He takes Beck's head, like puts her in there, and then like joins up with Colonel, and Beck's like absorbs some of the power, but then she doesn't. And then like they join together to form the Kagash, but then Grubs puts too much power in it. He's like, oh no, something bad's gonna happen. What do I do? And then Beck's like, she like winks at him, even though he's like evil, like winks at him. And he's like, whoa, that was like actually Beck. Okay, I'll do this. And everyone's like, again. And then they like go and like tear some stuff up. And then they're like flying around, and they're like, whoo, and then everything goes black, and Grub's like, this is the end, and Beck's like, no, this is the beginning. And then he looks up with his eyes, but then he's like, what? I have no eyes, I have no body, because I was just like a thing. And then Beck and Colonel are there, and they're in Dervish's house, but they look out, there's emptiness, nothing but emptiness. And so Beck is like, hey, we are, being the Kagash, like, just can create the universe and stuff, like, however we want. And Grub's like, wow, that seems very bad. Like, all that stuff happened. Like, what are we gonna do? So they decide to go into the demon world and kill all the demons. But Beck's like, no, you can't do that. Like, no, like those are people too. We have to keep them alive. But then Colonel and Grubs are like, well, hey, maybe we can kill the demon masters that try to cross, but the lesser demons can stay. And Beck's like, oh, okay. So then they go and they do that. But then they find Lord Lost, and Grubs wants to kill him, but Beck's like, no, we made a deal. And Grubs like, I don't care about your deal. Lord is like, you have to listen to the deal, or you don't have to fight her. And then Grubs like, okay, fine, what's your deal? And Beck's like, well, Lord Lost was in on the resetting plan. He made a deal with me that we would reset the whole universe back to how it was and make it how it was in exchange for Lord Lost being alive. So Grub's like, oh, okay, fine. And they leave, and they're like, how are we going to recreate this new world? And Beck's like, oh, man, well, we got to make sure all the demon crossings that happened before, if we want time to go as it did, we have to make all those happen. But then they're like, but we can keep all these people alive, like give Dervish a new heart, make Billy and Locke not die in the cave, Charmelia give better legs and stuff. Maybe Barnabas could live too. And so they all make that exact stuff, and then all they had to do is Grubs, being the trigger, has to create the Big Bang and make everything happen again. So he makes a speech like he's Jesus, and he's like, let there be light, and then there's light. And the book ends with the word, not the words like some dramatic thing, but the last word besides the end and 2001 to 2009 is Coolio. So yeah, normal kids go into a magic world and then become God. Well, gods, plural, but I was about to give a review on the book, but this is a summary. That's the summary done. And I think that really is a weird way to end it off. That's like both a good ending, a weird ending, and a bad ending at the same time. All I want to know is, like, did Beck, Colonel, and Grubbs put themselves in this new world? Can they, like, talk with them? Do like Dervish and Barnabas remember them? I don't know. It's weird. It's like, I don't know. Being a god seems like a hard job and a sad one, because you had to live forever and see everyone die and stuff. So, that's it. I could wait 2 minutes to make this into an hour, but I see no reason to. So, yeah, Demonata. It's a pretty cool book series. I'm gonna have kind of a hard time trying to find another one. Another book series to read. But, oh well. Thank you for watching this. If this gets uploaded, which by now it probably will, because I wasted so much time on it. I'll probably never make a video like this again, because there's no need to. This seems like kind of a boring premise. That should have been like 20 or 30 minutes, but it was almost an hour. Alright, thank you for watching, and bye-bye. I'm gonna put my hand on screen like some people do, because it's so cool.